Welcome to Lindamood-Bell Radio. I'm Dave Hungerford for Lindamood-Bell. No matter where a student lives, they can catch up or get ahead in reading, comprehension, or math. Lindamood-Bell online instruction is available worldwide. Like at our centers, our online learning is one-to-one and engaging. Instruction is personalized, tailored to each student's learning needs. So it's no surprise that Lindamood-Bell online students make progress comparable to students who attend in person. Today's episode is a conversation I had with Jacquelyn Taylor, a high school student and online influencer who lives in Maine. She talks about her diagnoses of dyscalculia and dyslexia, and her work to help others with similar issues. Here it is. Well, thank you for joining me today at Lindamood-Bell Radio. I'm here with Jacquelyn Taylor, a student in Maine. And Jacquelyn, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, we kind of ran across you online through social media, and I was referred to you and looked at your blog, and it's very interesting, and wanted to kind of talk to you about your journey academically.
Yeah.
Tell us what your schooling journey has been like thus far.
Well, it got off to a pretty rough start. I was diagnosed with dyslexia when I was 9 years old and dyscalculia when I was 14. So I'm just going to dive into that a little bit more. I could have been diagnosed as early as second grade. I had an evaluation done by my school system, and that was all set up because my mom suspected I had something not quite right happening at my school and education-wise, and she was absolutely correct. However, they just diagnosed me. Well, I had anxiety diagnosed, so they kind of resaid, yes, your daughter absolutely has anxiety. But funny enough, they actually wrote down that I had a lot of tricky areas with writing, reading, math, and you would think they would say, oh, that's kind of some signs of dyslexia, but no, they just decided to go with the label of anxiety. So
let me ask, what was it that tipped your mom off? What caught her attention?
Yeah, I think it was because I was probably coming home school crying. I do know that was a major factor. Also, I was turning in assignments completely blank, just maybe with my name on it, as a sign to say, hey, I have no idea what's going on, but the school system didn't really, pick up on that. I think as well, she did ask my third grade teacher, is Jacquelyn struggling in school? And my third grade teacher did say yes, said like I had loads of struggle areas, but that was all they said, so that's kind of what tipped her off.
You might think the school would reach out and talk to your mom about that.
No, you would think so. And then did you want me to continue on or any other
Sure, yeah.
Okay. And then then in third grade, she was like, okay, we should probably have an outside evaluation done just to make sure that I just have anxiety or something else. So it was with a neuropsychologist, and she did diagnose me with dyslexia. So I was age 9 at that time. And continuing on, of course, I kind of understood I had dyslexia after that, but I didn't really know what that entailed. I just thought, okay, so that means I have some struggle areas with reading, writing, spelling. That's it. But it's really hard to comprehend as a 9-year-old child, you are different than your peers, and it's okay because your brain just wanders to stupidity and thinking that it's really bad if you have the label of dyslexia. So
how did they explain that to you?
I don't quite remember that part, but I think it was definitely just saying I have difficulties than other people, but my parents would be so incredible and always say I'm so smart and I can do anything else just like other kids. It just might take a little bit extra time. And I'm just really happy that I have supportive parents who told me that, because it changes the story completely from that area.
Yeah, if you had the opposite of people that just said, well, I mean, that's just the way she is.
Yeah.
Going to do well in school, that could have a very different path and outcome.
Exactly.
So you got diagnosed at school.
Yes.
Did they then have plans to help you?
Yeah. I did get an IEP plan. I think that was in third grade. I believe it was halfway through third grade. So it really started fourth grade, continuing onward, which is good because I had some reading support at school, and I think that was really helpful, but later on in my story, I just get better reading support than my school, but it was a good first step for sure. And then later on, as I go through high school, I had some bumpy areas in middle school, but honestly, nothing of worth note, really. So as I continued in through high school, actually right before I entered, we got tipped off that I might lose my IEP plan because I would not qualify. It was like really hard to find a qualifying detail because they said I had more strengths than weaknesses. And that's like how you basically get an IEP is if you have kind of similar amounts of strengths and weaknesses. And so they were like, whoa, she has a lot of strengths and only a couple weaknesses. But their major thing was the grades. And of course, I just want to mention grades, whether they're good, mediocre, or bad, they really do not matter at all. It's just if you are struggling, is there something that can be implemented to help you in school? And yes, I was struggling, and there was something that could be implemented to help me. So that was kind of a really annoying curb of my life, is just trying to tell my IEP people that, hey, I am struggling. Like, I know my struggles. I can tell them to you. And then them thinking, nah, we just don't really see it. So it wasn't really good. But
let me ask, what did they provide you via the IEP? Was it like, did they pull you out of class for small group instruction? Did you have somebody helping there? Did you have extra time? What sort of accommodations did they make for you?
I had ed techs all in middle school, which was really great. Especially in like my science-based classes, English.
What's that exactly?
Ed tech, that's just an adult who knows kind of how to step in if you're struggling and explain details a little bit more clearly to you. I believe they're also called maybe paraprofessionals, so that's another term that you might hear. And then I did have some reading support where I was pulled out. That was usually like the pullout usually happened when I was in probably before middle school, but I did have some help with like a separate class, I believe, in middle school that I would get some reading help as well. That's all I can think of for right now. But then in high school right now, I do have specifically designed instruction, and that's for reading and math. So thankfully, I do have my IEP still. It was definitely pretty tricky to, like I said before, like get them to understand that I'm struggling. It was all because of my parents just stepping in and saying, hey, she definitely is struggling, and explaining to them many times that good grades do not really matter. So that was...
Yeah, you said that math too also was starting to come up in your...
Yeah, so when we got that tip off that I might lose it, I went in for a reevaluation with the same exact neuropsychologist, where she then did some tests to see if I had dyscalculia, because my mom had like a phone call explaining that I had numerous struggle areas with math before I even went in for my evaluation. And so I think on the phone call, the neuropsychologist said, well, there is something called dyscalculia. At the time, my parents did not tell me that, just because they didn't really know if I had it, or not. But I actually did some research myself and came across an article from understood.com all about dyscalculia, and I was very certain that I had it. And then when I had the actual evaluation and I was doing all these different math, kind of just math tests, I guess you'd say, I definitely knew that I would come out of this evaluation with the diagnosis of dyscalculia. I remember I was in the car, I think, going home. It was like a 2-day evaluation. So I think one of the 2 days, or maybe both days, I went into the car and I was just bawling my eyes out because it was really hard doing all that math that should have been quote unquote easy for me to do, because I was just absolutely not where I was supposed to be for grade level wise. Things that were for second or third graders, I had a really, really hard time with. So that's why I kind of had all those emotions. And then, yes, I was indeed diagnosed when I was 14 with dyscalculia. So
how would you define that now, knowing what you know?
What dyscalculia is?
Yeah, well, people that don't know what that's kind of a less common term than dyslexia.
Yeah, dyscalculia is a math learning disability causing individuals to have a really hard time with comprehending math, retaining math, recalling math. Mathematical situations like paying for an item can be a really hard to complete as well, or giving correct change. It definitely affects basic math facts or really any math in general, but I think a lot of people can kind of understand they have dyscalculia if they struggle with basic math facts. So that's what I would say right now. Yeah.
And how would you say that it compares to dyslexia, which is obviously with words and reading, but what are similarities and maybe what are some differences that you've come to know?
Yeah, just like with dyslexia, sometimes I put some letters in the wrong place, or I leave out a letter for a word. It's just like that, but with math. So sometimes if I see I want to be very clear, I don't ever see flipping letters or numbers in my brain. That is a huge misconception. I do, however, sometimes write numbers in the wrong place, or kind of like read it aloud in the wrong place just by accident. So let's pick the number 45. I might see it as 54, or I might, basically I might say it as 54 instead of 45. Usually I can correct myself. Sometimes I don't, but I'm at the point in my life where I can kind of realize, oops, that was a mistake. Let me go back and redo that. But definitely there are some things that slip through the cracks. I think another difference, I guess, like I said before, like paying for items or percentage signs for a grocery store, like 25% off, analog clocks, those things do not have anything dyslexia based. It's all dyscalculia based. A major thing is learning how to drive. Oh my goodness, that has been really, really difficult for me to do. Directionality wise, spatial awareness, kind of knowing your body position or your car's position in relation to outside objects, like a different car, or even like the lines on the road, staying close to, I guess, the yellow line instead of drifting off into where you should not be. And that again doesn't really there might be some factors of driving that is dyslexia based, but a lot of it for me is totally dyscalculia based. I guess that's what's coming to the top of my head right now.
So there must be wide personal individual differences.
Yeah, absolutely.
Things like with this.
Yeah, no two people are going to be the exact same with their struggle areas, or their strengths, or what they're just excel in. So that's really good to just know, because if I have a friend who has dyslexia and she's going through her signs and symptoms and I'm comparing my signs and symptoms and I'm like, whoa, this doesn't really add up. It's because we're just completely different people. So that's really good to know about.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about some of the help you had along the way. You've visited along with school, and that had a margin of success from what I know.
Yeah.
What did you try?
Yeah. So I have done quite a few tutoring programs and never finished any of them. These include Wilson, Spire, and another reading program that was not really evidence-based. I don't actually know the exact title of it, but I just know that I didn't complete it. I was told that it's because, like, if I go into a resource room teacher 1 year and they have a specific curriculum they use, I might then get transferred the next year to a different resource room teacher who uses a different curriculum. So it's honestly such a vicious cycle, because I'm never, ever getting to the end result of completing the tutoring program. So that was really hard for me to kind of do. I don't remember a lot of it, but it would be really beneficial if I did actually complete them, And then Lindamood-Bell came along. Thank goodness for that. I did not do it through the Lindamood-Bell Academy, but I did do it through Pine State Learning, which is a tutoring company, and they use Lindamood-Bell as their specialized program. And I did that the summer of freshman year. It was 3 hours every single weekday, which was a lot, but it was obviously worth it, because I just had a lot of benefits come out of it. And then the next summer, I completed the same exact process, but added in some math tutoring as well from On Cloud 9. Again, thank goodness for that. I remember that we were trying to figure out if there was a math program available to use, and a lot of it was not really I don't think really was for like high schoolers to use, but I wasn't even at the position of needing high school math. I needed like first, second, third grade math before I could get to the level of high school math. So then On Cloud Nine was the right fit for me. I just absolutely adore all the tutors who helped me out, and they really, noticed a problem and really helped me get to the end result of reading a book by myself. That was one of my main accomplishments. I did that when I was 15 years old. Accomplished the task of reading a book by myself. I'm so proud of it.
Yeah, what was it?
It was Of Mice and Men.
Wow.
So I don't remember the person's name, the author. But,
Steinbeck, John Steinbeck.
John Steinbeck. There you go. Yeah, it was really cool. And also, as I was reading it, I think there was a character who had like an intellectual disability, so I could relate to some of that as well. So I think it was like a perfect book to read by myself. But that was completely because of my tutoring that I had done. And then I also could do simple math, basic math facts in my brain. I could understand that 5 plus 5, if there was an example of like, what is 5 plus 6? I could understand that, well, 5 plus 5 first is 10, add one more, you have 11. I could not ever do that before. So I didn't know, I always would question, like, how do people know all these crazy math facts in their brains? Like, just made no sense to me until I could actually do it myself. Then I was like, oh, this is what it feels like, doesn't it? So that was really incredible experience.
When I was taught back in the day, we had to sit in the classroom and memorize and kind of chant out loud the multiplication tables, the addition tables, subtraction 1 through 10. And it was mind numbing. It was really
yes, it sounds like it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And it worked for some people and some it didn't. And the ones that didn't, they didn't know what to do with, I think. Well, that's great that you got that tutoring. We do provide a lot of professional development to people, to the public, to schools, and it helps a lot of people that are not near our centers or not able to deal with us directly. So I'm very glad to hear that. And it sounds like they incorporated some of the overall things, like having that 3-hour a day is really important.
Really,
the traditional model has been 45 minutes or an hour with a speech pathologist twice a week, if you're lucky, and you'll get 80 hours over the course of a year. And having that be intensive is, we found, really important to change. I mean, you had a lot of years to make up.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think I went from a 7th grade reading level all the way up to grade level, which was 9th grade at the time. And then for my math, I actually don't quite remember what grade level I jumped to, but I feel like it was quite a few. And I do still do Lindamood-Bell here and there at my school for the specialized, what is it? Just like the help that I get with my school right now. That's on my IP plan. They also use Lindamood-Bell, and that was a huge push because of my parents, yet again. So they're my biggest advocates, and just love it so much. The world needs more parent advocates out there. They really do, because when you're young, you can't really verbally express what's difficult in your lives, but your parents can be your eyes and ears and kind of interpret what's going on at school and then get you the help that you need, which is just necessary, honestly.
It is. Yeah. It's great that you have parents that are that aware of kind of the situation and can go after that. Well, your journey has another part, and that is that you have seems like some very strong self-awareness and have reached out and trying to find a community to help. Tell me about your blog and some of the things you've done online to establish that.
My major thing is my TikTok account. It's called Jacquelyn_Elise, and I can spell it out for you if you'd like. So Jacquelyn is JACQUELYN_ELYSE. I started that during COVID-19, like a lot of other creators as well. And I wasn't thinking too much of it other than kind of sharing my story here and there, hoping to get some online feedback and supporters who agreed that they didn't really know too much about dyslexia and maybe together we could learn. And then I kind of took on this, persona or something of just being like a little disability advocate and really trying to research all these different things about learning disabilities and providing them back to my community on TikTok. And I honestly thought it was only going to be like a year before it fizzled out. And then it just kept going and going. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay, this is awesome. And I'm still doing it. I'm still really proud. Um, During COVID-19, I had more time to film. And now I just kind of do it when I have an inspiration pop into my head and I run to my camera and just film a video and upload it. And yeah, I still get supporters. I still get people in the comment section saying, thank you so much. Like, we really need people who advocate for learning disabilities and spread awareness on it, just because there's not a lot of research out there. And a lot of people also just don't feel confident enough to either put themselves on the internet, or they don't feel confident with their learning disability as it is. When I started, I really disliked my learning disabilities. So I kind of wanted to gain some relatability from other people on the internet and maybe learn to love my learning disabilities. And I have. It's taken a long time, but I think a major factor is telling myself that I am smart and I am capable and I can do really hard things. And although it might be difficult at times, there are numerous ways to get to the end result of whatever you would like to achieve. So I wish people know that. I'm glad that people are going to be listening to this, because maybe that can be something that is helpful for them. And once I started to just tell myself positive things, then I felt more alive and more positive and more confident and comfortable with my learning disabilities. I just had this huge mindset change. And I don't know when it happened or where it happened, but it did happen. And I'm forever thankful that it did happen. So yeah, self-advocacy as well is a major aspect of it,
And as you've met people and peers in this issue, what surprised you about some of the things that you've learned about people?
The age group. I have some supporters online who are maybe in their 50s or 70s, and they're commenting like, thank you so much for doing what you're doing. I'm blank years old and we need more people like you. Or I just recently found out that I had a learning disability, and this is the type of content that I needed when I was younger. And I think that was pretty surprising. The other aspect of it is I get people from all over the world. I did not imagine that I would have people in the UK or people in Dublin. I don't know, just everywhere. There are some people who decide to tap my follow button, and it's all the way across the other continents, which is pretty cool. Pretty mind-boggling too. It's like, whoa, just technology is quite.
That's great that you have such a far reach, and it speaks to the broadness of the issue and how pervasive it is, really.
Yeah, I totally agree.
And you also have, I've been looking at your website too.
Yes,
tell us about
that. Yeah. This past year, I created a website called MindsLikeMine.com. It was a family friend of mine who set it up, which, again, I'm really grateful for. I have a really nice support network around me, which is really awesome and something that not everyone has. So I'm really lucky for that part. But Minds Like Mine is kind of just a baby right now. There's not a lot happening, but it is hooked up to my Instagram and my TikTok account. I have a little series called Jacquelyn's Driving Diaries, where I actually show people how I learned to drive with a dash cam. So I have that mini series like in a different section on my website. So I'm pretty happy about that, just because it's all in a cohesive area that you can click through and understand a little bit more.
And there's merch. There's some merch on there.
Yeah, there is some merchandise. It's not exactly mine, but I did help to make sure that it was all saying the correct message. It was a 3-piece mini collaboration with Edward Teach Apparel. I think that happened like 2 years ago. It was really cool, and it is linked up. So if you want some dyscalculia merchandise, I suggest you go to Edward Teach Apparel and get some. And then, yeah, some other things, some other appearances that I've had, like my Distinct magazine article that I wrote when I was 14 years old. That was really like a kickstart of some of the unique things that have happened in my life, especially this one too. So yeah, it's kind of just about my disability journey story and some neat aspects that have come from it. And when I get a little bit better at controlling my website, I hope to maybe do some vlogs one day. I also have a YouTube account, which is also pretty new. So some of those videos are also pasted on that website as well. But yeah, it's kind of just the center of me, but I hope to expand it.
Nice. Well, this is your senior year in high school.
Yes.
What are your future plans?
Definitely college. I'd like to pursue a communications major, probably around the New England area is what I'm looking for right now. And then, of course, just continuing on my self-advocacy and advocacy for learning disabilities. I'd love to do more collaborations. I'd love to public speak one day. That would be pretty cool. But just spreading my message across the world is really what I'd love to do. And then some more schooling. That would be my answer.
Yes. And you're going to hope to continue your efforts online with your
Absolutely.
Community development? Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
Do you have any advice you'd give to others that find themselves in the same situation?
I think a major phrase that I like to say sometimes is you're allowed to do things at your own pace. You're on your own timeline. So it can be really hard to see peers excelling in different areas that you hope that you can excel in. And I think it's just comforting to know that you're on your own timeline. You do not have to be like them because you never will be like them is really the end result. But you can take different approaches to try different avenues and see what works and see what doesn't work. I also like to say that if school is really difficult for you, sometimes it's honestly just the teachers don't teach the way that your brain works. So it's a little bit hard, but it's also nice to know that it really is not a you problem, nor is it really a teacher problem, but it's just the information isn't really presented in a way that's accessible for your brain to process. So I think that's a major message that you should just always carry with you as well. So
thank you so much for being with me today. Really appreciate hearing your story.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
And thank you for listening. Learn more about us at Lindamood-Bell.com. You can also find us on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. We are Lindamood-Bell.